By fans, for fans, the Hog Sty. And now, here's your host, Sean Conti.
Welcome back to the Hog Sty, DC's unofficial leading source for all things Redskins, brought to you proudly by BigHeadsMedia.com. The Redskins and Giants are set to face off this weekend with nothing but pride and draft picks on the line. Should be a good one. Plenty to talk about. But first, a word from our sponsor.
Support for the Hog Sty comes from Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-belt grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Ready or not, the holidays are here. Still struggling to come up with the perfect gift for that special someone in your life? The answer is Manscaped. The Manscaped Perfect Package 2.0 is the perfect gift this holiday season. It includes the Lawnmower 2.0 trimmer, the Crop Preserver anti-chafing deodorant, and the Crop Reviver toner spray, which is infused with cooling aloe vera to keep you from sweating, sticking, and smelling. Trust me, she will love the manly scent of these products. It even comes with a pair of Manscaped boxer briefs to keep you feeling fresh all day long. Manscaped has redesigned the electric trimmer. Their new Lawnmower 2.0 has proprietary advanced skin-safe technology to prevent nicks and snags, has a rechargeable battery, and it's waterproof so you can use it in the shower. Stop using the same trimmer down below that you use on your face. So what are you waiting for? Head over to manscaped.com now and get 20% off your order and free shipping by using the code BIGHEADS. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. Promo code BIGHEADS.
And we're back. Welcome, Sean Conti here, along with Steve Thomas, Alex Zeese, and Jamal Forrest. Got about with the Giants coming up, like I said, but it's kind of hard to gin up much excitement about this one at this point in the season, wouldn't you say? Or are you guys going to somehow infuse me with energy and excitement for this game?
I'll say
this is like the battle of the week, the battle of the season.
Yeah.
Something like that.
You know what's amazing, though?
What was that, Alex?
It's not the two losingest teams playing head-to-head, because Miami and the Bengals are also going head-to-head this week.
Oh, my God. I'm going to have to be flipping back and forth. Hopefully they're playing at different times so I can just spread them out over the day.
I don't know if one's on Saturday. I honestly don't.
Well, that's one way to make yourself miserable. I'm not sure if you want to watch both of these.
Yeah, if you're a glutton for punishment for the holidays, that's a great way to spend your time.
It's hard enough to even get through one of those games, much less two of them.
Yeah, much less two of them, exactly. Well, I mean, before we talk, we have some other stuff besides the game to talk about, but does anyone know off the top of their heads, because there is a significant difference in draft pick coming out of this game between the Redskins and Giants, right? So whoever wins significantly back themselves up. Now, I'm not preaching the whole, like, let's lose for better draft picks, but I do think there's a lot on the line for this game. Is that correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, think about this for a minute here. I mean, we are 3-10, correct?
Correct.
And so the Giants are 3-10. The Giants have already beaten us once. They've already beaten the Redskins once. And
True.
The odds are that both teams are going to lose both of the last two games. It's the most likely scenario. So whoever wins this game will be most likely ahead of the team that loses in draft order. And so the Bengals are going to get the number one overall pick for sure. And so, the Dolphins, the Giants, and the Redskins are all competing for 3, 4, 5, basically. Or 2, 3, 4, rather. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
And as it falls now, we're kind of slotted for 4.
Yeah. So
like
the weird thing that doesn't make sense is, I didn't even realize this, draft pick order is based also off strength of schedule, not head-to-head matchups. So even though the Giants kicked our asses in, what was that, week 3?
Yes.
They are ahead of us, and they have the second pick because they've played an easier schedule.
Yeah. So basically,
if you
makes sense.
Well, no, I mean the theory is if you suck the same against worse teams, you deserve a higher draft pick. That's the theory.
I get that, but you'd think if we lose, let's say we lost the Giants twice, and somehow we still have the same, head-to-head.
It's a little odd. Yeah, there's no doubt it's odd. Yeah.
Yeah.
I stopped caring. It's confusing. I'll just wait till the season's over.
Ice cream headache.
I'll look at everything again.
I'm with you.
I'm
with you
totally with you, Jamal. I think the whole stressing out about draft pick is just a waste of time at this point.
Yeah, no,
it's already gotten us into like the whole. Well, the Redskins Twitter has all gotten everybody into pointless arguments already, and we don't even know if we're in drafting second, third, fourth, or fifth. I'm like, how y'all want Chase Young, and you don't even know if we're gonna be.
And there's also rumor that he's going back to college anyway. So
it's not a rumor. He said it. He told the world that he was going back to college.
Yes. Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah, he did say it.
Too early to hatch a plan. I absolutely agree, but. Just because it's not draft time doesn't mean we can't pick up Alabama players, right? Now, we did have an addition to the roster. Is that correct from the practice squad?
We had a bunch of moves. So let's just go over all of them. To IR are the following: Jimmy Moreland, Trey Quinn, Brandon Scherff. Signed from the practice squad to the active roster is defensive back Maurice Smith. The following free agents are signed. Two more defensive backs, Cody Sensenbaugh, who has been with the Redskins before, and then Kayvon Webster, who I know nothing about. And then they signed a couple practice squatters to replace the ones that they dropped, or the ones that got promoted, rather. Mm-hmm. Wide receiver Emmanuel Hall, and then defensive end Cameron Malveaux. So that is roster. So the big ones are Moreland, Quinn, and Scherff down. Which isn't surprising because this is the time of year, and they tend to put people on IR at this time of year.
If you get Scherff. Like a hangnail, they'll put you on IR.
Well, Scherff actually has apparently a pectoral injury, so yeah.
Pectoral or shoulder?
No, you're right. No, I'm wrong. You're right. I'm wrong. Okay. It's shoulder. Yeah,
it's a shoulder thing. Well, that's perfect. Maybe as a segue into talking a little bit more about Scherff, because I know we were talking a little bit before the show. Steve, you had some thoughts about him, and I know I do too. And I think kind of the idea was that sort of seems to be the player of the year to get some hate on the Redskins. Is that right?
I mean, yeah. I've said on the show before that Redskins fans seem to go there's a lot of groupthink that goes on, and part of the reason is the team stinks, and so we have to blame somebody. And it goes in, like, I've noticed it goes in like 3 or 4 week cycles. For a while.
Yeah, it's not player of the year. It's player of the quarter or something.
Yeah, it's the latest player on the hate brigade. It's been Josh Norman at times. It was Jay Gruden at times. For a brief period of time, it was Adrian Peterson. It's gone back and forth. At Jordan Reed. Well, now it's Brandon Scherff. And so what I've been seeing from the fans in our comment section on Twitter and whatnot is now that Wes Martin has actually played more than 30 seconds. All of a sudden, it's okay to have Wes Martin replace Brandon Scherff. Do you guys realize that Brandon Scherff is like a 4-time Pro Bowler? And yes, he's had a bit of a rough season by his standards this season, no doubt. But he's still a top 5 guard in the league, and somebody's going to pay him elite money. But you don't just he's young still. He's on his rookie deal. This is a cornerstone. You could have him here for 5 or 6 years at an elite level with the salary cap going up. I wrote an article about this. We can make Brandon Scherff happen comfortably and, make it work. And I just don't understand how, even if you're not a diehard fan, you're just a regular fan, just watching football, how on earth can you think a 5th-round draft pick rookie who's played all of one game is all of a sudden good enough to replace Brandon Scherff? I just don't understand.
Well, and Steve, I'm not going to say I agree with this, but let me give you the devil's advocate reasoning that I see from a lot of folks here. I think there's 2 parts. One is we know it's a contract year for him. I think you have a wing of people who just assume he doesn't want to be here, and so he's going to be gone. So they're just, I think, psychologically prepping themselves for the fact that Brandon Scherff is going to go elsewhere.
Yeah, we've seen it a million times.
We've seen it before with guys like Kirk Cousins, where he probably didn't want to be here, so people just turned against him. That's not an unusual thing to see, and it's a little bit of psychology 101. People will turn against you before they know you're going to turn against them. So I think there's that, but the other thing is I've seen a little bit of this whole argument that, well, why pay a guard? Guards aren't important. Don't pay a guard. And you see a lot of that mentality from people, too, which I disagree with. I think a pulling guard is a lot more valuable sometimes even than a good tackle.
Russ Grimm says hello.
Yeah. Yeah, you know what? Like, a good guard is the difference between an okay running game and a great running game. So, you know, this whole you just draft a guy in the 7th round every year to play guard, I don't understand that either.
I agree, 100%. And I think the thing that's funny with this fan base and just hearing people talk, in my eyes, was the fact that, you know, you got a guy in Wes Martin who's unproven. And then you got a guy in Brandon Scherff who's proven to be really good. Like, you know that much. You're dealing with a rookie quarterback in Dwayne Haskins who needs the help on the offensive line. You're willing to let Brandon Scherff walk because he's had a down year. The last 2 years he's been fighting health injuries, but this year he's been his productivity has been questionable. I wouldn't say that he's been bad because I wouldn't know that. I just know he has a lot of penalties. It's kind of like the same thing that I said last week about Darius Geis when you mentioned the fact that you don't know if Darius Geis is either injury prone or he's just going through a streak of bad injuries, and eventually he may get through it where he doesn't have any problems anymore. However, like, this may be the same case with Brandon Scherff. You didn't have any problems the first 2 years. His last 2 years, or the first 3 years, his last 2 years, you know, you're going through the problems with injuries. I say that to say you need to help with Dwayne Haskins. You need to surround him with as much talent as possible. Securing your better players is the best thing for him and the best thing for your team. There's always ways to move around money. You're talking about making him the top paid guard or one of the top 2 or top 3. It doesn't matter because in a year or two, he won't be that person anymore. It's the same thing with any other position. So you make that move now. You continue to focus on the outside, the tackles, and the weapons. So you need that help, and Brandon Scherff is right there. Do not let him walk because it will be it'll be a very foolish thing to do if the fans were in control.
Yeah, and I think that's a great point. We can't really afford to create another hole in this roster just because. And I mean, here's the thing: Wes Martin played well. The times we've seen him play this year, he's looked pretty good. I think he may be a starter someday. I don't know if that's next year. It might be a little further out than that. But we've heard that he's been playing a lot of center in practice. Bill Callahan's mentioned that in a press conference or two. We've heard that he could be the guy to step up when one of these guys goes down or leaves in the future. And, he has the potential, which is great, but I don't see a need to just say, all right, let's replace a Pro Bowler with this kid.
It's ridiculous. I mean, look, and I think some of the argument is this. You're going to have to pay Scherff a lot of money, right?
Yeah,
and he deserves it. And so I think the argument that some who aren't quite as dumb as the group that just wants to get rid of Brandon, but some of the argument is on a pro rata basis, it may be more valuable to the team if you have Wes Martin who can approximate Brandon Scherff at some level at 60% or something. But here's what I'd say to that: don't take our word for it because we're idiots. Robbie Duncan, Adam Taraski, Mark Tyler, Brandon Thorne. I asked Brandon Thorne about it, who's been on this show, who is an expert, who does O-line for a living. Here's what he said. I asked him this question, and his response to me was, my question to him was, some of these people want Wes Martin to replace Scherff. What do you think? And his answer was, he could replace him, but expecting him to ever be at Scherff's level is asking a lot. There's like 5 to 6 guys at right guard tops at his level the last 3 years. That's Brandon Thorne, who's an expert at this stuff.
Yeah, I can't really. I mean, look, this is exactly the kind of thing that happens to teams with who don't have an identity, and it could go any number of ways. And this is the kind of thing that comes up. People are really easy to cut ties with somebody in an off year, which is what's happening to Scherff. So I can't really add much to everything that you guys have said, other than it's tough. We need receivers, tight ends, running backs, linebackers, cornerbacks. We need essentially everything. Scherff, like you guys said, is a 4-time Pro Bowler, right? Dating back to 2015. This guy's due for a payday pretty soon. So I think that's where it's coming from, right? Like we thought we had left tackle lockdown. That proved not to be the case this year. So it's like there's so much missing from this team. That's where it's coming from. But I think that said, everything you guys have said is right on. I mean, why would you get rid of arguably, one of your better offensive players? Keep what you've got. It's homegrown talent. Hold on.
It's not arguably. He is. For sure. And in terms of the salary cap ramifications and all that, I know the salary cap, okay, people? They can do it with little consequence, okay? And it's not our money. It's Dan Snyder's money. So in terms of value, who cares? The point of it is that you can fit Scherff under the salary cap, even as is, and understand that some of these players are going to go. There's no way Josh Norman's going to be here next year.
Right.
There's
Jordan
no way
Reed's probably gone.
Jordan Reed's going to be gone. Those two guys alone pay for Brandon Scherff and more, okay? It's not that big of a crisis to sign Brandon Scherff. And if you guys think that the Redskins are going to go out and sign a whole bunch of high-priced free agents, you're dreaming. That's not – even the Redskins don't do that when you have such a terrible team. They might sign one or two.
2 years ago,
they might sign one or two, but they're not going to bring in Deion Sanders, Albert Hainsworth, and Adam Archuleta all in 1 year and really nuke the cap. No. That's not going to happen. So you want a guy like Scherff as the cornerstone of your offensive line, experienced, successful, homegrown talent. It's just crazy to think that you would get rid of him because somebody named Wes Martin showed up.
Right.
It's just crazy.
Now you guys know I like to play with those salary cap games that you can find online. Like our buddy Steve. Yeah.
Steve Shoup over at Draft. Yeah.
His site has a great one. It's not hard to cut some of those big salaries that we know are going to get cut, and you're going to have like 50 to 60 million in cap space really quickly with this team.
I keep telling people that.
Yeah.
We need to have a salary cap generator on our site, Alex. We need to think about that.
I thought we basically had one of those. I thought you were a walking
that's you, Steve. Generator. You are the salary cap generator.
Yeah, I'll do it in my head. Just I'll leave my cell phone
email
number.
Steve, and he'll tell them the salary cap.
I'll just give them my cell phone number, and they can always just get a hold of me anytime.
Billable hours. You got to figure out a way to bill them.
Yeah. Anything else then about contracts, about Scherff, anything else before we move on?
I think that since we're talking about guards, the more interesting one's going to be the other side with Flowers in my mind. Like, I don't know what he's going to ask because I thought he's played well enough where I don't think he'll ask for Brandon Scherff money, but he could easily come in at them and say, "I want $10 million a year." With how
I don't think you're going to get that many out of him. I mean, he's not been that good. He's not been that good. Go ahead, Jamal.
I was going to say, because I agree with you, Steve, but here's the thing that's dangerous on this in general. Whether you like it or not, I think both are going to hit the market and see what they got. Because when you have, I don't know about Scherff now because he's injured, but he may just, see what people are thinking about him, test the waters. But Eric Flowers has played good enough where he can see what's best for him out there. Even though he acknowledges this is the most fun he's had, this is the best season he's had, and his production is showing such. So he may be enticed to come back. Like, you can tell he has no clue how bad things are with this team. He don't care. Like, he's happy. So after every play, he's running up to his teammates. He's smiling them, giving them a hug. If the helmet is off, he probably give them a kiss on the cheek. Things like that. And I think that he really does like it here. But just in the sense of money wise and business wise, he's probably but they're both gonna take their chances in free agency just to see what they got out there. And if the Skins if they don't play ball and compete, then I do think, Alex, to your point, Flowers is intriguing in that aspect. But yeah, they should be able to get him for lower than $10 million, but it will be rough because I think they're both going to see what's out there, and it's going to be hard to bring them back.
Well, Brandon Scherff only hits the market if the Redskins let him hit the market, number one, because they can always franchise tag him. In terms of Flowers, the range I would see for him is like a 3-year, $20 million-ish sort of contract. That's what I think I would probably
offer him. Closer to 6 to 7 million is what you're thinking.
Yeah, that's what I think I would probably offer him. I wouldn't want to let him walk. I would make him an offer as soon as possible and see if he just does it.
Yeah.
Because I agree, Jamal. I think with when you say that he looks like he loves it here, and Lord knows if people love it here, let's keep those guys, for God's sakes.
Well, yeah, but does he love it here because he's also playing for Bill Callahan, who's probably not going to be here next year? I mean,
probably. I'm sure it is. But on the other hand, this coaching staff's taught him a lot.
Yeah.
Everybody doubted this dude, and somehow they've turned him into a serviceable starting quality guard, which is miraculous, and it's resurrected his career, and he probably thinks he owes his franchise something.
But you get my point. Like the loyalty to coaches isn't going to exist because the coaches will be gone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with you. But my point is, I mean, there's nothing anybody can do about that.
No,
I think if it were me, I think he's probably worth a 3-year deal in the low $20 million range. That's what I would offer him.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, anything else offensive line stuff, or can we get down to brass tacks with the old G-Nats, as Alex likes to call them? Anything else?
No.
Let's do it.
No, I'm good.
So, Giants-wise, potential to see some Eli Manning, as I understand it, this weekend. First time since week 2, I guess. He was benched after week 2, I think, this year in favor of Jones. So I guess I should start by asking that. Steve, you're our injury guy, just like you're our everything guy. Do we know if he's coming
Daniel
back or
Jones
not this weekend?
Play.
He's going to play.
Yeah,
okay,
he practiced full today. We're recording this on Wednesday. Full go. So you don't start quarterbacks. You know, you don't bench quarterbacks who are full go on Wednesday unless he has a setback. We'll see. But so I think we're going to get Daniel Jones and not Eli.
Hopefully still nursing that ankle, right, is what it was with him.
You know what Daniel Jones' problem is? Here's Daniel Jones.
Other than the ankle, yeah.
More than the ankle.
No, I mean, he's not a horrible quarterback, really. I mean, he's a rookie. His stats haven't been great. They're frankly a little bit better than Haskins' stats. Here's his problem. And here's the problem with the Giants. The Giants overall aren't nearly as bad a team as you might think. Okay? The Giants are not 3-11 level bad. Weirdly enough, 3-11. The Giants are not 3-11 level bad. Their offense is mediocre. Their defense is bad in things and mediocre in others. But their numbers don't play out a team that's Redskins level atrocious, except one thing. These dudes, minus 15 turnover ratio. Oh, my God.
Wow.
That is just atrociously bad. And they have 31 turnovers on the year, 16 interceptions, 15 fumbles. You know who had 10 of those fumbles?
I mean,
anybody?
Daniel Jones.
Daniel Jones.
So he's got a Carson Wentz problem, is what you're telling us.
He does have a Carson Wentz problem, and on top of that, he's thrown 11 of the 16 interceptions. On top of that, so Daniel Jones all by himself responsible for 21 turnovers. That is the problem, because if you look at really and truly what the Giants can do, they have Saquon Barkley, who got hurt. He isn't having the year he had before.
Yeah, he's been hot and cold, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has, but he's still Saquon Barkley, decent running game. They've got some decent receivers. Slayton, they've got a couple tight ends that have burned us in the past. Yes, they've had problems on defense, but they're 5th in rushing yards per attempt on defense. I mean, they have some good stuff about them. They're not terrible in the red zone. They're not terrible on third downs. They're horrible in time of possession because of all the turnovers. They've given up some sacks, not a ton. It's really the turnovers that are killing people. And so, it would have actually been better for the Giants to have Eli out there because Eli's not going to have that many fumbles. But so the bottom line here is, and then I'll shut up, the Redskins need to generate turnovers this week. That's how you beat the Giants. That's how the Redskins beat the Giants. Get some interceptions, blitz this dude relentlessly, make him drop the ball. That's how to win.
I think that's a fair point, but I would say there's one other area that the Giants really have been, struggling, and that's their coaching department, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the Giants, they haven't fired their coach yet, but it's kind of widely accepted that that's a fait complete as soon as the season's over, that they're going to be moving on from, what's his name, Patrick?
Pat Schumer.
Yeah, Pat Schumer. I couldn't remember if it was Pat or Patrick for some reason. But
it may be Patrick. I don't know, but
he goes by Pat. Yes. Yeah. Yes, Pat. All right. Well, so Coach Pat there just, this is his second time coaching. Just hasn't been a good NFL coach. Not really sure why they kept him this year. So, and I was trolling some Giants sports. They're doing what we're doing, where they're looking at every NFL coach candidate, and like the fans are just salivating at this point.
Right, everything looks good. Yeah, I mean, like Steve, I think you gave him a little bit of a little credit. I don't give them. I mean, it's crazy. They are ranked above us, I guess, on offense by ever so slightly, much. But they're below us on defense. I mean, this is a team that if we have another week where, we drop a couple bombs to McLaurin, one or two, we rip a couple nice runs off. I mean, that makes the difference right there against a team like this and gets you the win. Not that it really matters all that much, but I mean, you can't win this game. Then I mean,
it matters for.
I mean,
for
I guess we deserve our dead
what
last
it matters
spot.
for.
Yeah, it's a pride game. That's really all it is. Especially for us, because I mean, we are the bottom-ranked offense. I mean, I would hope that we can move the ball a little bit against this defense. If you look over at their depth chart, I mean, who on this defense is really intimidating to think about? Who's a real big
Janoris Jenkins, who's no longer on the team.
There you go. Anything else? It's just not that much
Jamal has problems.
recognition.
I think we were better off talking about everything but the game. I don't know. Like this game is just so weird because the state of both teams, like what teams, the state of which both teams are in, and you got to talk about their defense and how we'll look. But the only thing that I can focus on personally, the best matchups that you want to pay attention to, is more so just really looking at the development of the younger guys. Dwayne Haskins, first off, we know how good Terry McLaurin is, but we want to see other guys like Steven Sims play as well, and Kelvin Harmon, because one of the things that we mentioned, and I know I'm straying away from matchups itself, but that's just where we're at right now. Steven Sims, if you want him to play in the slot, he has to develop more reliable hands. He's played significant time in like the last 3 or 4 games, but more and more you see him play, the more you see that he's great. He's a great athlete, great with the ball in his hands, but sometimes he's a 50-50 catch guy. Like, you don't know what you're going to get when the ball's thrown to him. And you have to. I'm going to be paying more attention to that and focusing on Steven Sims in this game and next week too.
Yeah, I mean, the dude needs to hang on to the ball. It's just so frustrating watching him drop these passes. I actually think the secondary is a pretty good matchup for us now. For those of you who don't know, I know you guys, Alex, Sean, and Jamal, know what happened, but for those of you who aren't aware of what happened, Janoris Jenkins took umbrage with somebody on Twitter for something dumb, and he responded with a slur that is commonly used for people who are mentally challenged. And called him that name, called him the R word, if you will, which decades ago when I was a kid was thrown around all the time. It's not anymore. And so the Giants just up and cut him. I personally think that's a bit of an overreaction. Sit him down, talk to him, maybe, I would, but that's what the Giants did. So Janoris Jenkins is now a New Orleans Saint now, because the Saints weren't stupid, and they picked him up about 5 seconds after he was cut.
By the way, after Jenkins was cut, he tweeted out, "Best news ever." So
I'm off this crappy team. I'm going to a Super Bowl team. I mean,
I don't even think he knew he was going to the Saints yet. He could have been picked up by Miami at that point.
So, but the point here is, listen to the Giants secondary. DeAndre Baker, somebody, Corey Ballantyne, Michael Thomas, and Antoine Bethea, who's a halfway decent free safety. But do you think Terry McLaurin's worried about any of those guys?
No.
I don't.
No. And that's the thing right there. I think actually that and Jamal kind of said it right on the head. It doesn't really matter what happens in this game. All that you really want to see is the development of the younger guys. Dwayne Haskins had a great game last week. If we see another game like that where he's 200-some yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, looks pretty clean, that's a damn win in my book for this game.
I kind of agree. Just keep the turnovers at a minimum. Like the last 2 weeks, he's done a really good job at doing that. The Packers game, he had 1 turnover, which is pretty bad. And then last week, technically, he had 1 turnover.
That one didn't count. Yeah.
With the late, I'm about to say, really don't count it. But the last 2 weeks, he's done a really good. I don't think he had a turnover in the Panthers game at all.
No, I don't think so.
So yeah, like the last 3 weeks itself, generally it's just been really good in terms of protecting the football. And that's the most important thing to keep an offense on the field. Now, when it comes to this Redskins team itself, that damn third down offense is terrible. So it doesn't even matter, if he's protecting the ball or not. The Redskins have a terrible time setting themselves up in good position on third down, first and foremost, but secondly, converting on third down. So it doesn't even matter if he's protecting the ball or not. You're still getting off the field after third down, and that's not good. So they just have to do a better job collectively, setting themselves up in good positions on third down, but also executing on that.
Yeah, I mean, of all the numbers I have sitting in front of me, because I've got our written game preview sitting in front of me that hasn't been published yet,
Right.
And that is the worst number on this on these pages. I've got about 4 pages of stats here, and third down conversion 28.1%, 32nd and last in the NFL. It's awful. It is awful. But and just Sean, you were right. This is the overall, statistically speaking. If you just kind of put it in a hodgepodge and say who's the worst, it's definitely the Redskins overall. Right. But last week was really the first week, in my view, that they played a complete game. They look like an actual NFL offense for once, for the first time ever all season, besides the first 2 quarters of the Philly game in week 1. And so if you can keep that up and make some progress, there may be a silver lining to the season, which is finally, in the last quarter of the year, they finally started to click a little bit. So, I mean, that's the hope, and against this Giants team, because I know I said they're not, I don't think they're 3-11 worthy, but the defense still stinks, okay? I just don't think they stink that bad.
Right.
They really and truly, if they could do it against the Eagles, they can do it against the Giants, hypothetically at least.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. I think that's absolutely true. Anyone want to give score predictions? Volunteer to go first? Or, by the way, if you have lingering thoughts about the game, I'd love to hear them.
I don't have lingering thoughts about the game, but one thing we should do before we go is wish Bruce Allen a happy 10-year anniversary.
I'm not going to do that.
You don't have to.
I'm not going to do that.
No, I've got it.
Why would I do that?
Bruce, I've got it. I definitely want to say congratulations to Bruce. Bruce, you came here in 2009, right? 2009? Right. It was full of fanfare. We were all excited. We got rid of that giant smelly turd, Vinny Serrato, who's been relegated to Baltimore radio now. Right. It was the most exciting time in Redskins fandom since the return of Joe Gibbs. And everybody thought you were going to come in here, you were going to turn the Redskins around, you were going to make us a winner again. You were going to make us a winner. And it was the best of times. But you know what that turned into? The worst of times. Because, dear Bruce, you've lost 100 games in 10 years.
Yep.
You are,
that is just
objectively speaking, there is no worse senior team executive in the NFL who's had your kind of tenure with the worst record. So, of all the disappointments that this team has given me over the years, and you have given me a lot, since about 1992, it's been one series of disappointments after another. So I guess the real gift you've given me, Bruce, is that you yourself have been the biggest disappointment in the entire history of my Redskins fandom, because I had such high hopes for you. And it turns out not only were you a bad senior exec, you're a horrible human being, you're a total slime ball, you're a liar. And you're somebody that nobody respects in the NFL based on every poll, every anonymous quote. You are the antithesis of what a leader and a manager and a senior NFL executive should be. So congratulations on stealing Dan Snyder's money for an entire decade.
Well said. I agree. I second that. Thanks, Bruce. That's all I have to say to that. Thanks.
Well, I'll say he did one thing right, and that was he brought back the gold pants.
See, and I don't even agree with that. This is sacrilegious to some people, but I hate the
just thinking what I could have said if I had thought about that ahead of time. It would have really been good.
Right.
Yeah, right. I don't want that. That would have been rated
What
R.
that means is that he will never be a guest on our show, and I will never be the team president for the Washington Redskins, but that's okay.
That's all right.
I think I'm okay with both of those things. I think for the most part, I think both of those things are good. All right, Steve. After that, because my goodness, man, that was beautiful. Hit us with your score prediction. Then you seem full of positivity. Let's see what you got for this game.
I really want to pick the Redskins to win this game. You know what? I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to defy my own. Because Jamal, you said I couldn't do this in the beginning of the year, but I'm going to do it anyway. Because I picked the Redskins to lose this game when we did our season predictions. But I'm going to have faith in Dwayne Haskins. Dwayne Haskins is my boy. This week, he turned a corner. He played well last week.
Okay.
Dwayne Haskins is going to lead this team to victory. It's going to be ugly at times. It's going to be something along the lines of, I think, maybe like 23-20. Redskins win. We're going to take the season out at Jack Kent Cooke Stadium in fine style with a win in front of tens of Redskins fans.
Beautiful. Anybody else got a score prediction?
I'm kind of riding high on it. After Steve's rousing speech, I'm going to go with the Redskins too here. I think it's going to be a clean looking score, like 28-21. You know, just like no field goals, just a couple touchdowns, that kind of deal. You know, probably one or two off of a turnover, hopefully, that kind of thing.
Okay, so you're calling Redskins?
Yeah, Redskins
28-21, something like that. Okay. I will follow you up then. We'll let Jamal go last because he's usually the best at this. So I will say Redskins don't win this one. Sorry, guys. Same record, and we are one of the teams they beat. So I'm going with Giants victory here. I think you guys are kind of right on the score. I'm going to say maybe a close one, 23-20 Giants.
All right. Well, here we go. I feel like, I actually feel like Steve and Alex, to be quite honest with you, the Redskins is
nice.
In a position where they're at home, and I also feel like the way things went down with the Giants in Week 4, I think it was, it rubbed everyone the wrong way, but more importantly, it rubbed Dwayne Haskins the wrong way. The one thing that I've learned about Dwayne Haskins since I've been watching him and just hearing him throughout the year, he is a very competitive person who hates losing. He may become like a sore loser in a sense, and that happens with people. Like I'm that type of guy sometimes. But the way he played in that Giants game, the way he looked unprepared, the way he has to look at that film and reevaluate himself. He has a redemption part in a lost season, but he has to go up against Daniel Jones, the very guy who, I mean, he was neck and neck in terms of the draft and the comparisons and who should you get. He'll have that opportunity to go against Daniel Jones, and I feel like this is his moment to redeem himself and show that he is not that guy that you saw in Week 4. So, with that being said, the Redskins do have something to play for. They do win. I believe they probably put up 30. So I think it's going to be. Wow. I think it's going to be about 30 to 17ish or 30 to 20. And that's
you made a good goes. You make nice. A good point about Haskins having to watch that film. He actually talked about that this week and said he's embarrassed to watch that film. Right. You know, he knows he was awful.
Saw that quote. Yeah,
I knew I heard it somewhere.
You did say that. Yeah, you weren't making it up. I mean, he did say that. Real quick, since I forgot earlier, injuries real fast. Landon Collins, Fabian Moreau did not practice Wednesday. Allen, Dunbar, Nicholson, Penn were all limited. And on the Giants side, Antoine Bethea was a DNP, and that was it. So that's injuries.
Okay. Beautiful. Well, any other thoughts about anything we talked about over the course of this episode? We talked about some offensive line stuff with Scherff. We talked about the Giants. Anything else on your
I think
minds?
I already shot my verbal wad with my Bruce Allen speech.
I loved it, man. That was a beautiful thing, man. We should do that every week.
Yeah.
To close out the episode.
I'll just say happy holidays to everybody out there. Christmas, Hanukkah.
There you go.
Going to be coming up this week. I'm going to be out of town, so I'll just say my happy holidays to everyone now.
Well said. That's a good thought. Holidays
happy
are
holidays to you too, sir.
That's
and
right.
Everybody else out there.
Beautiful. Well, we'll leave it with that then. Keep on checking back. Hogsty.com, BigHeadsMedia.com for the latest and greatest, and we will see you on the show next time right here on the Hog Hog Sty. Take care.
All right.
Cut.
The Instigator Podcast is the best source for Buffalo Sabres and NHL-focused discussion. Join us each week as we break down everything surrounding the Buffalo Sabres, the latest news from around the NHL, and feature select interviews with notable personalities from the hockey world. The Instigator Podcast can be found on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, and just about anywhere else podcasts can be found. And we look forward to having you tune in for our next episode.